My name is Santiago. I'm a second year RA at Sadler Hall. My direct supervisor is Amar, and this video is to apply for my 2020-2021 RA role. So my first question is, what have you learned about yourself in this position? This lesson has been consistency. Something this role teaches you is that something you do once or twice, you should keep doing it because you have students who are learning from you. So, in my case, if I always say hi to students on the hallway, it's something I should always do every time I see them because it wouldn't look professional on my end if I said hi one day and then not the next day. Something else is time management. Well, this role teaches you a lot of this because there is a lot of tasks, meetings, and things that you have to do on a weekly basis, on a semester basis, and you have to stay on track on all of this. Um, I have two calendars, one for like long term commitments that is like ORA training, things like that. It's a long term. And then I have a weekly planner where I put tasks like intentional conversations, CCIs, things that are short term. This is something that this position has taught me very well because otherwise, if I didn't do these things, I wouldn't stay on track with everything. I also love the independence of this role because we get our own space, our own room on a floor, and it's very different than living off campus or to than being a resident in a residence hall because we get a lot of responsibility and things that we would usually not get. Um, yeah, those are my main lessons that I've learned as an RA. The question is, what skills have you gained this year? So this year has been very, very eventful in the short time in just 4 months. Just and I say this because of all the incidents that happened last semester and things the RAs had to deal with around campus. This all taught me was that sometimes you have to take a step back, no matter what's happening around you, and take care of yourself. I had friends who did not take care of themselves because they were protesting or doing um, things, but then they were not eating. They got sick. They didn't do well in classes, and that's something that this challenge taught me this last semester, and it's that sometimes you have to take a step back and focus on yourself, not exposing yourself to not exposing yourself. Say all of this because sometimes your own well-being is more important than anything because if you are not well, if you're not eating well, or if you're not doing well in your classes, which is a reason why you're in this university right now, then what are you doing? And that's just something that I take very seriously, and I started taking very seriously after last semester, after all that happened. Um, but yeah, that's my biggest gain this semester, this year. Question is, where where are areas that you have identified that you need to develop? Well, the first area would be group work. Engineering student, we do a lot of group work all the time in almost every class I have. In my RA staff right now, I have a co-RA, and so we work together a lot. And so, what I mean by group work is independence. Um, Having getting used to it, to working with people all the time, sometimes it's hard for me to work by myself, to stay on track for myself and all these things. So for my next if I am an RA again, I would like to develop this sense of independence and working by myself and accomplishing my own tasks because it's something that I haven't had much this year. I had last year when I was an RA in Lawrenceton, but it's something I want to work on for next year because independence is a key to adulthood, and it's something I think I need to work on. And the last question would be, how will you go about developing these skills in your second year as an in an RA position? Well, as I mentioned, what I want to work on is my independence. And I plan on working on this, hopefully, by being in a smaller staff, where I can just depend on myself, having to do, my own bulletin boards and keeping track of my own things, without someone else. But I also think a different area I need to work on is a little bit of time management. It's kind of tied on this because it's the task completion part. I usually have a hard time um, with deadlines and things like this, and my part of being independent is working on that as well. And yeah, and then in addition to this, um, to work on this two things in my independence and time management for completing tasks specifically. I'm an RD who can be flexible but not an understanding of of this difficulty of mine, and who can teach me and help me learn in these areas, help me grow in all these areas. Like my current supervisor has been very helpful and has taught me a lot of skills, and I'm very happy to work with him. But I would like to work with someone else who can teach me new things. There are more questions I didn't see. So the next one is, why are you hoping to return to the RA position next year? My biggest takeaway and reason to come back is that every time I walk into my floor, all my residents are so welcoming. They even have a nickname for me. I had never ever in my life had a nickname. They always call me my first name or a shorter version of my name, but my residents call me Tig, which is I've never heard that before, and I like it, and it just makes me feel like home every time I walk into my floor, and they like are so like welcoming, and that's something I would like to see next year as well. Second question is, in light of the recent events on campus, creating an exclusive environment is important. What are some strategies, specifics, things that you can do to make your community more uh, welcoming? And so, for this question, I take pride on myself because I have created a very welcoming and safe environment for my students since day one. I was working on this before any of the things that happened around campus happened. On my floor, we did not have any incidents or anything of that sort. And I think what has helped me, like the specific strategies I use, was treating students like they were adults, like they're freshmen or whatever year they are, but they are adults, like they are independent, they're here on them by themselves and they make their own decisions, and there is no reason for me to treat them as kids or anything like that. Of course, I always give them advice and I tell them to be safe, but I at the end of the day I will always tell them, like, it's your safety, it's on your own hands, and it all depends on you, on the decisions you make and things like that. So in my intentional conversations, in my floor meetings, things like this, my CCIs, I always emphasize this concept that I just mentioned, and they respect me, I respect them. I haven't had any incidents with any of my residents, and the ones I've talked to, like on a daily basis, things like that, they all feel welcome, they all feel engaged in their community. And the ones that don't, like, I've helped them go through it, like for instance, my international students, um they don't hang out with the say the locals or the other students on my floor, but I've helped them navigate through that, and now they have their own like group of like international students on my floor. So I think We don't have to wait until something big happens on campus for to start like training or making inclusivity a priority. It's something that you work on as an RA from day one. The way you address your students, the way you talk to them, it all ties back together. The next question is regarding the residential community connections, the 30-minute conversations we had with each of our students. Um, I thought it was beneficial because you got to connect one on one with every one of your students. You got to know them on a personal level. They get to know you, who you are, and as a yeah, on a personal level. But that was on an idealistic way, on an idealistic world, like because personally I had 20 plus students, and it's very challenging to schedule 30-minute conversations with more than 20 students. Like I did not see the benefit of it. Like the idea, I understand the idea and I thought it was gonna help me, but it didn't really brought anything. It didn't improve my relationship with my students. It was the same before and after, and my relationship has been good with them. Um, so I think in the future, um, I would different method used to enforce this same idea of connecting with your um, students because I just did not think it was beneficial. Same note, one of the biggest challenges I had was fitting all these spots on my calendar, and not even that, but getting them to sign up for my to do them because we all have very different schedules, and as an engineering student it's absolutely challenging to find all this time to meet with all these students. um, so in the future I would just, I guess, start earlier. Is in thinking of this role as a professional development opportunity, what are a few goals that you have for yourself in the next year in the RA position? Biggest goal is to be able to do what I have done this year, next year, with my floor, and that is creating this inclusive and welcoming environment. I would like to get as close as I am right now with my residents, where they come to me and where they have like a nickname for me. I just love that. So one of my goals would be to create an inclusive, welcoming community. Um, Next, I would like to work on staying more on track with everything that I have to do for this role because there is just way too much. And at least this year, has been my hardest academic year, and so I've had to cut down everything apart from my RA position and my schoolwork. So I've had very few um, social life and things like that because my school work takes so much time and then this role as well. So for next year I would like to spend less time in those two areas and focus more on my myself, like my well-being, social life, just different aspects of a person that everyone, most people have in college, but I could not have because of my too demanding roles. So that's a second goal, which is focus more on my leisure time, I guess. Um, and then the third one would be staying on track with everything in the RA position. So like actually like accomplishing everything on time. Uh, yeah. The last question is for third-year returners. I'll answer it because I was a mid-year hire last year, and then I'm an RA this year, so I'm kind of a third year, but I'm not really. But just in case, you know. And so this question is, uh, in what ways would you serve as a mentor to other members of your team and provide support to your supervisor? Before in the first question, I would like to work more on my independence in this role. So, um, to support my other RAs, I would make myself available if they need me. Like I would let them know, hey, like I've been in this role for almost 3 years. If you need any help, you can reach out. But that's as far as I would go with helping because or supporting my team because I really want to stress that I want to work on being independent because I've grown to be dependent on other people while doing my role this year at least, and so I would be there to support whichever RA needed my help, and then to support my supervisor. I guess I've always been very supportive. This is the 2 years or year and a half I've been doing this, so I don't think I need to work on this. Every time a supervisor or someone in my staff has needed my help, like I have been there to help. So I think it's just a matter of continuity, just doing the same thing I've been doing. Yeah, and thank you.